Oh, I think it's the Florida, the Miami subset.
Hello, welcome to Learning the Code.
Really awesome front end stuff. So that's what made me want it. Like,
Hi, I'm Polly.
Cool.
Good to meet you. Polly, good to meet you. Hi, good to see you again. How are you doing? Good. Polly. Hello.
Good.
I would say we have some food, sandwiches.
you can see better.
Wine or water.
How'd it go?
Yeah.
Are you trying to transition?
We kind of
Oh, no, I'm actually high school.
Oh, okay.
That's what you're working for the state, actually, so I was just wondering, like, is this?
Oh, for the state, okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You don't judge me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised by no one has seen
Yeah, I know, I was.
Well, I go to this school called Meridian, and it's like a kinder to 12 years old.
I have a cover.
I should, yeah.
So your tonight is informal 60 years of doing
Yeah. I know, I feel the same way.
Well, actually, we just have tonight. Yeah.
She wasn't just I'm actually in high school. Yeah.
60 hours. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be in that role. But I feel
In 956.
Well, you know what?
So, you know,
And what do you really for a living?
do you feel like that gives you the rest
No,
of your coding?
I found a job. Starting tomorrow. So I think it's mostly
Well, you get a new, thing.
Did you learn that on the job, or did you learn that you learned it on the job? Yeah. Okay.
But I really struggled with
Because I'm wondering,
To be honest,
as
development for regular development,
you can't separate all the space.
kind of a small.
Yeah, it's white spaces.
Yes.
So, yeah, we have a Python that down at the beginner.
I want to talking about that. Actually, I find this and I really
Woman has a life that I want.
struggling out, but
Clearly.
look at my first full class and I wasn't. I had,
So I was kind of like, somewhere.
so there was a lot of, just catching up on the way things are taught now. And the teacher wasn't all that.
I keep thinking like that's my,
It was supposed to be
especially if it's like your first job.
lab.
Yeah.
I will say like an 85% lecture and it was so much lab. But really, and it's my own fault, because I didn't realize, I didn't think it was over here, and I needed plenty of time outside of class to just work on. But, But I'm kind of like, I act like I'm superhuman sometimes. Like this last semester I was working 30 hours.
Ambitious, you're ambitious.
I was working 30 hours a week and it was the classes.
Yeah.
I was silly.
I keep going into like the mental.
It was just, I wasn't really that much. It was plus the fall. And I just do a lot more practice and and so now I can go back to the head and be like, oh, I'm exaggerating, of course. Okay.
Yeah, it's helpful if you can do more than one language, so you start to see the theory, how it's all happens, structures, logic,
Yeah.
every language has a form.
So, yeah, no,
Yeah. I was,
I think
because I never really had to.
they have,
I was.
yeah, because they have integrators.
Just use that JavaScript.
And
I mean, I know this is all that I'm doing right now, but
my first job
it's still like version of
and I'd already been introduced to one,
and there's about 10 products to use.
and it's so basic visual flying, and then in the military, when I first started that first job, that's how long ago it is.
Right.
So I was exposed to all that. I had, I was working on IdealSpot programming, but no programming.
When is that?
And somewhere along the way, I discovered I had artistic.
Oh, and did you
and then
finish
I
your Ajax course?
and I really wasn't, I learned programs on different jobs, but not as like to go get a job. I have 3 years experience in that program.
Accept it better.
Learn it as you go, and then it changes by the time.
Yeah.
So I felt like I needed to go to the root, which is the programming. Go to the root of it, because then you can do any software and software program out.
yeah, yeah, no, if you have a theory, then you need to go have things to do.
Why would that happen?
And not just the language.
If you want to be on the very cutting edge, we have a React, website, and it's all JavaScript. So React is Facebook's, it uses sockets so that it's real-time updates, like how you write something, you see it right away. And if you're doing a group message, everybody sees it right away. It's not, yeah.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
Okay.
So
I was trying to think of what I would do for my
website.
Like,
So
I had this, like, oh, I'm just
but
gonna
if you
take my
want to,
projects.
you can go to journalist, and then went to code school to Zavia in Los Angeles, and now she's a great designer at a startup. So she does more than like the front end, a lot more design.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we're doing React and it's at
Or
last
maybe it's
week
just so
downtown.
up to your preference that
And that's on
you're as long
the,
as
that's
they
on
see
the,
That's on
meetup. Okay. I think this semester I have class on Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay. We have like drinks.
Oh, you're, okay.
We have drinks and we hang out, so some people have gone through some stuff on their own and they have questions. And I think we're gonna start like a new app together, like build more momentum, because we only meet once a month.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to react at work on a project, so I'm like, I do this. No, excuse me.
Choose your compiler.
Oh, JavaScript usually either entirely,
Or maybe she just hasn't
runs
had to
rules are now with React where you can
Yeah.
attack. So what it does is it compiles your JavaScript for you.
But how do you pick which one? Or does it matter? Like them all?
Well, it just depends what I'm building. Usually with JavaScript, you're building a web application. application, so you don't actually transpile or compile it by C. Usually you're still just running a JavaScript, and it's running in a browser. So you don't really read JavaScript. With the last one I did, it was tablet app for Windows, and it was Electron. It's a wrapper for JavaScript, so that it seemed like it's a native app for tablets, but you can still write in JavaScript.
I guess the only thing I have
It's like a Java application for Android or Objective-C for iOS.
I'm Carolyn.
It's nice to meet you. It's to meet you. We have one, it's modern. Cool. And we're just hanging out.
Yeah, I went to that one. It's
We mostly, so we're actually.
The only problem with that one is really hard to find
Upstairs.
Oh, you like girls.
So you kind of want to park around
Working, we just wanted to go up and say hi, because we're both kind
It's
of like, I mean,
Awesome.
it's done in 3 weeks.
First Street and.
Karen and I went to Makersburg.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, that's Makersburg is that reactor.
Yeah, I went to
Oh,
24/7.
cool. Oh, wow. Did you work there?
I work at the Valley, and they have an arrangement with.
Yeah, I'm really curious about it. That's part of my job.
We didn't actually have this illusion.
Yeah, so yeah, I do have talking people there. This is awesome. It's so close. It's really nice. This is not as new good.
No, I
Sort of
I
like
know. This is okay, so like they all did Christmas. Christmas break, we have to follow the same.
Also, I was trying to go. I think it starts at 7
Was the first week.
Yeah, it is.
Arrive around like 6:30.
So we have.
If I park it,
Yeah, so now
I just like
now and
circle for 7 hours.
to finish, and so we had to finish the year and also finish our.
Can't find parking.
It is a lot, especially
I know. It wasn't always like that here.
Well,
Used to be able to find
Which I think I'm gonna have to just get used to that, because it's new, I don't think that's gonna be like.
Like Syria. Okay.
Yeah, like if you're the smartest person in the world, yeah, so we have instructors, but I feel like.
Oh, does it?
It probably has the most.
Not even
Jobs are you know, it depends what you're doing.
Okay, I just envisioned, I guess all of them having that many, I mean, I'm familiar with distribution, but.
I never ran.
I think the way they, once the class started, the way that they
I had
adapted was like, we're gonna move on.
to that point when I was nervous, like.
So like, so it's very like self-working
What
kind
happens
of stuff, which,
because it compiles itself, don't worry, it doesn't compile to C.
that's
Wow.
tough.
Yeah.
If you have no background in it,
It's all
that, and if you have no background in it, because I didn't know there was something about background. The only thing that I exposed to that I liked up until then was like puzzles.
Yeah. She's doing
So-
closure now, so we.
Oh yeah, closure, yes.
I mean, I don't know.
I went to like closure first.
Right.
There's a hospital meetup, and she runs the closure.
All the intricacies of it, so it's just very,
Yeah,
very.
yeah, my mentor runs the hospital, so they changed it to where it's allowed.
Oh, hell yeah.
Almost actually, it was like,
Yeah.
people talking about stuff. So,
I'm pretty.
and like, I went to two, this is awesome, I can't go to.
That's the thing, that's the thing, that we're allowed to have this, we have the same access to.
I
for
was
the
literally
computer
coding,
center.
I have to.
I use these things.
I'm not going to
However,
any other meetups anymore.
which is great, but, I
Now I'm
mean, you know that for like as a good job or so, or whatever,
There are times where we have.
they're mostly geared towards.
I don't know if I actually did.
The only one I did is outside
This
of
is a
Texas.
pilot program I need.
Well, that's
So,
nice. That's
Me and Nadia actually went when we go back on Wednesday, we go to
But I live on the boardwalk, so I
they have usually set up for the controllers office versus but they do a different stuff. They do .NET and yeah, it's totally in Java and other stuff. I do intermittent stuff. So I'm kind of wondering which one how fulfilled at least maybe a bit of researching.
Hey everyone, we're gonna get started. So tonight is lightning talks at Capital Factory. We had 4 people signed up, but only one of them came. Thank you, Cece, for coming. Cece's gonna talk about her job search, but a little bit about Women Who Code. So this is the Austin chapter of Women Who Code. We have 2,200 members. I started it 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago when I was in code school. And we exist to help women who are interested in transitioning into coding and getting a new career, and for those who are already in the industry, support, because sometimes we can feel alone. We tend to be the only person on our team who's female, because we make up 8% of the industry. So we exist to help you all. And we have a lot of other meetups, so check out meetup.com. We have JavaScript, Python, Ruby, and Clojure meetups. So if you're interested in any of those languages, check it out. And we're gonna hear from Cece. Yeah.
Thank you. So, hi, my name is Cece. I actually came to the past 2 Women Who Code Lightning Talk, and my New Year resolution for 2017 is I'm gonna give a lightning talk every month for this year. So, so I said it. So now everybody knows. So I have to do it. So I think this is a good one to start. So my job search as a newbie software developer. So a little bit about myself. So I was an electrical engineer for a long time. And last year, I kind of got tired of all the hardwares and I decided I want to do software. So I quit my job and I joined the coding bootcamp, Makersquare. Now they are called Hack Reactor. So I graduated last October, mid-October. So that's when I start to, trying to find a job. And I realize a lot of you are probably going through a coding bootcamp or maybe just trying to find a job. You're probably going to experience a lot of things I experienced. So yeah, so I want to share the experience and then let you know you're not alone. So if you are not familiar with the hiring process of a software developer, you usually start with, of course, you submit your application, and then the recruiter will see your application and then will call you. And usually the recruiter, they can be technical or not very technical, and they'll usually just ask about like anything on your resume. And they'll write it down and then send it to the hiring manager. And if the hiring manager likes what they see, they will either give you a full interview or give you a coding challenge, which is like a problem that you actually have to code. Or sometimes they will give you a coding challenge when you're in the phone interview, which is horrible. And then like you're just doing this like. So and after that, if they like what they see, they will invite you to the on-site. And on-site can be, it really depends on the company. It can be various things. And then after that, and you get an offer if you're good. So really, if you go through the coding bootcamp or just any like internet advices, they'll tell you it's a numbers game. Especially if you're a newbie coder. I mean, if you're experienced, people will come to you. But if you're a newbie, like it really is a numbers game. It's about how many applications you throw out into the world. And yeah, and it's actually a good thing. I mean, you learn a lot in the process. So really it's a numbers game, and here's my numbers. So basically in this 2.5 months, I applied for 87 plus positions. So by position, I mean that there's sometimes a big company like IBM, they will have 5 different positions that all fit me, and then I will apply to all 5 of them. so that counts as 5. But like all these counts, I have 87 plus. So I have a spreadsheet that I record, how many, this is the position I apply, this is the link to the job posting and all that. And I have 87 on that, and there's I think there's maybe a few that I did not put it on my spreadsheet, so it's 87 plus. And I got maybe 10 to 20 recruiter calls. I actually had 10 on my spreadsheet, but I don't think I record all of them. And for among them, I got 4 technical interviews, 7 coding challenge, which is kind of funny, it was 6, and I actually got 1 this afternoon. But I already found a job. I already got the offer to like right after like beginning of December, so I already accept that offer. So like I got a coding challenge, so it's kind of too late. I'm not gonna do it, but it's nice to know like people like me. But anyway, so I got 7 coding challenge, I got 4 on site, and I got 3-ish offers, which I'll talk about later. But you can see like it is really a lot of job application, and and I do have to say, compared to my cohort mate, because I do have an engineering background, so I do think I have a better record than a lot of people. But it's really hard work, and just crunch numbers and you get there. So here are some of so how do I get these numbers? So first of all, you have to find job openings. And these are the places I find all the job openings. I think Indeed is the big job site, and LinkedIn also have a lot of jobs. And AngelList is one that work for me. So all these are the ones that work for me. And AngelList worked for me, so I had a few conversations with a company on AngelList. But if you're using their mail system, sometimes if you have a really long email, they got lost in the middle for some reason. So always follow up and make sure that if you haven't heard from them for 3 days, follow up, especially on AngelList, like follow up and see if they actually got your email. And I do have to say meetups is very effective. I mean, you are probably not gonna get 20 job openings in meetups, but the ones that you meet in meetups, you can directly talk to the manager. And usually the meetups are like the hiring managers are coming. For example, there's one I actually met the CEO of a company in the diversity hackathon last October, which is a hackathon hosted by Women Who Code. And I talked to the CEO, and then he gave me a coding challenge like right away. So you skip a lot. You skip the recruiter call, and you skip a lot of steps, and you can just get there. So meetups is it's a good place to be. Just come out and social more. It's awesome. And there's also other ones I use, but I haven't had any luck. But you should definitely try that. Building in Austin is a good one. They have a lot of startup jobs in there. And I even tried like Craigslist and Reddit. So there are jobs there, probably not a lot, but hey, give it a try, you never know. So when you are actually in the coding challenge, which is like they actually give you problems to solve, or if you're on site, definitely learn the basics of data structure and algorithms. And by that, these are the 3 sites I used. So HackerRank is the actual site that a lot of companies use. So go up there and then practice and then be familiar with their interface. And CodeWorks and LeetCode are both good. Basically, they have a lot of problem sets that you can practice there. And at the technical interviews, I think I'm a little bit more experienced in this. This is not just in the engineering interviews, which I actually on both sides of the table before. And I think, sure, be prepared and ask questions. And I think the most important thing is, to be honest, like when I interview other people and I walk into an interview, a lot of times I haven't really read your resume before. This is the truth. Like I probably just open up the email and say, oh, I got this interview today, and I just pull your resume maybe 10 minutes before the interview. And I'll read your resume for 10 minutes and then ask you questions. So a lot of times I don't know you that much. Like I did not study your resume. So, just, it's fine, like introduce yourself again, and then we don't assume anything about you. So just be charming and bet you guys can be charming, like, and just be charming and smile. And a lot of times, like when you don't know something about, like they ask you a technical question and you don't know about it, it's totally fine. And ask questions, ask reasonable questions, and make reasonable guesses, and smile. And and usually, like the interviewer will help you out. Happens a million times for me, and I definitely help a lot of interviewees to figure out the solutions, because it's a lot of times, like, I know I don't know a lot about you. I kind of assume you're kind of good because you made it to the on-site. I assume you're kind of good. So, but you're probably not 100% of the fit to this position. But it's okay because you're here, you're good, you're smart, you can learn. So we're trying to give you hints so you can figure things out. And that's kind of a good interviewer should be doing. And if the interviewer is shitty, you don't want to work there anyway. So yeah, so just like talk and then smile, ask questions. If it's silent for too long, ask another question. Don't be silent for too long because it can get awkward, and that's a big no on site interviews. So and even if you didn't do so good on this one interview, regroup, and then it's fine. Especially if it's a different company, of course, like the next company is not gonna know what happened before. But even if it's the same company and you have like 4 interviews in the same company, if you screw up the second one, it's fine. They are not gonna talk. They are not gonna tell the third one, no, this person is not good. They're just, they're not gonna tell that. They're like, everybody will go in individually. So yeah, like sometimes you just have to please the right person and you get a job. So yeah, like don't worry about you screwed the previous one. Just like keep your spirit up and then just keep going. So here's the story. So it's hard. And why did I say I got 3-ish interview? So what happened is when I first graduated from Maker Square, I actually got an on-site interview really, really quickly. About within 2 weeks, I got an on-site. And then after the on-site, I thought it went really well, and I really liked the manager, and I think the manager liked me. And they say they have some problem. After that, like, they just kind of like ignore me for a while, and I call the recruiter and say, oh, what's going on? And they say they have an internal discussion about budgeting. So I was kind of bummed because I thought I'm gonna get an offer really quickly, but and then I kind of got sad for a long while, and I kind of stopped applying for a week or two, and then I kind of regrouped myself. I started applying again, and right around Thanksgiving, I actually got a bunch of on-site, and I actually got 3 offers at the same week, which is awesome because if you have multiple offers, you can start to negotiate. Hey, this company's giving you 2,000 more. What are you gonna do? So that was an awesome situation to be in. And then I got 3 offers, and then finally, actually, I don't know if any one of you was on the last lightning talk, because last lightning talk I was here, I was like, I have these 2 offers, I don't know which one to choose, and then everybody was helping me to decide which one's better. So that was awesome. But so then I choose one, and then the day after I choose that one, the first company actually came back and say, we're ready to give you an offer. What do you think? So sometimes things just didn't work out, but maybe it's for the best. It is very hard, but good things will happen, and just keep the faith and keep going. You'll get there. So that's my story. Thank you.
What kind of jobs were you applying to?
I mainly, so in Maker Square we did everything in JavaScript, so front-end JavaScript, back-end Node. I mainly look for full stack and back-end. It's just because I'm terrible at CSS, so. Yeah.
And then you said when you're applying, try to look at like which ones you would fit for. And then I've read a lot of things about like guys will apply to something that they're only like 40%. They got like 40% of the qualifications, and women, if they're not near 100, they're like, oh, I can't apply here. So like, what do you mean when you say like you're looking for a fit? When do you feel like you know you have a fit for a job?
I think it's definitely true. Like if you see 40%, like if they have a listing and you know 40% of the thing, even 30%, like just apply. It's fine.
Okay.
Like usually for big companies, if they have a lot of openings. For smaller company, if they have an entry level position and have a mid level, like 5-year-ish experience, I will apply to both. And like you can kind of like depends on and you're told that I usually say I'm not an entry level engineer because I have engineering background, but although it's not in coding, I'll say I'm not entry level, and usually they will give me the mid level range one. And the thing is like you just apply, it's fine. I mean the worst case is they don't call you at all. That's the worst case. The second to a worst is that they reject you, but usually they just don't call you. And honestly, like interview needs a lot of practice. I remember like the first time I got a recruiter call and they call me and say, so what do you think you're fit for this position? And I was like, I don't know. It was horrible. But once you got, three recruiter calls, you're like, yeah, because I'm a genius. No, not like that, but it's like, yeah, because I know, I know this database, I know SQL database, I know NoSQL database, and you know what to say. So you definitely need to practice, and so it's fine, just apply. Yeah, there's nothing, what's the worst case can happen?
Yeah.
And did you get any feedback or response to the fact that you were from, or your coding experience was from a boot camp?
Not really. I think most people, when you say I'm from the code camp, everybody say, oh yeah, I know that code camp. Yeah, they understand, and yeah, even like there's position going in, I'll say they actually require some other language, and I'll say, oh, can I do it in JavaScript? And they'll be like, okay, yeah, sure, do it in JavaScript. So I think that's also another important thing. Like most of the things are negotiable. For example, like when you get a coding challenge, like they give you today, and you can say, oh, I have something tomorrow. Can I give it back to you? Can I back to you, 2 days later? And usually there was, in my experience, 100% then will say yes, fine, they understand you have your life. And what I usually do is I'll spend the next day doing code wars for the whole day. So I'm like super good at it, and then I'll do the coding challenge. So yeah, it's fine. Everything is negotiable. Don't be afraid to ask. Yeah.
What about any support for like learning on the job? Because they know like when it's like your first position or whatever, they're not like, oh, this person's an expert now.
Yeah.
But are they like good about giving you like a kind of like a mentor, like somebody like, hey, if you have trouble, ask so and so.
Yeah. So I haven't started my job yet. Tomorrow's my first day.
Oh, congratulations!
Yeah, so I don't know, but honestly, this job I'm going to, they're going to use Python for the backend. I have no idea how to write Python.
Okay.
So, but I think, I don't know if you guys go through a bootcamp, but if you go through a bootcamp, you learn everything in 3 months, in 6 months. You can learn something pretty soon too, especially you did it once. You can did it again. So be confident you can do it.
And so do they know you don't know Python?
Yeah, I told them. I was like,
and they're
wait,
just like,
yeah.
oh, you just learned it on the job?
Yeah. They actually told me, yeah, it's fine. Like we have 2 other new guys. They don't know anything about Python, and they just learn on the job.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's every day of your life is learning on the job, so
Yeah.
they want you to do that. They want to hire people who can learn. So that's the most important thing to show in your interviews, is that you're a learner. Ask questions like CC was saying, break the silences, ask for help. Beginning of this year, I was looking for a job again, and I went on 6 interviews before, 6 physical on-site interviews before well, 6 companies. I went on lots of interviews, because some of the companies it was like a 7-interview process. Fast ones were like 3 interviews. But it took, 6 companies before I got 2 offers the same day. But even for me, doing this now 3 years, it's still very exhausting and tiring and intimidating. And I would get stuck doing the whiteboard. I hate whiteboarding. I'd be stuck, and I'd be like, so what would you do here? Like, if if you were stuck here, like, how would you move on? Like, don't give me the answer to the whole challenge, but like, just how would you move on from here? And then they said, oh, like they were excited to show off. Mostly it's men, so they get to show off and they're like, well, I would do this. And then I was like, okay. And then I'm also visual, so when I would be, you know, like they gave me one, they wanted to have me write an algorithm where if you had a sentence, you could reverse the letters in the sentence and then print it out backwards. And so I was like, all right, well then you have to store the letters in like an array, and then you have to like loop back over it. And I said, you know, I'm visual, so I'm gonna write down the steps in English, like step 1, do this, step 2, do this. And they're like, okay, and then like they wrote down, and so I was looking at the sentence that they want me to do, and I was like, okay, I would probably do this, and then I reverse it, and then I do that. And at one point while I was writing the code, I got stuck, and the engineer said, well, what were you doing with your fingers? You know, when you're showing us with your fingers, like, what were you doing? And I was like, with my fingers? Oh, I was doing a loop inside of a loop. I'm like, so I need a nested loop right here in the code. And he was like, yeah! I didn't get that job. They decided later that they weren't going to hire anyone. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
I still had a really great experience. And I like the job that I did get. But yeah, you know, like you can go on all these interviews and then they decide like, no, we're not going to hire anyone. Like, oh, great.
I want to say one thing about the silence. You know, maybe during the interview process, silence is not really desired. But when you go into negotiating, silence is your best friend. So balance that out. HR people I know, recruiters that I know, properly placed silence at the right moment can get you considerably more money. Just
Yeah.
saying that.
Yeah, I agree. I heard that a lot, but it's kind of hard because especially when you got it, they're like, hey, we're gonna give you an offer and we're gonna give you X amount of money. You're like, yes, and you're like, shit, I just said that.
Right. So if you don't say anything, you're like, all right, I'll consider your offer. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
No commitments.
It's really hard to have that poker face.
Oh yeah, for sure. It takes some practice.
Thank you, Cece.
Thank you.
So we also have Jesse Rhodes signed up. Did Jesse arrive? Okay. Usually if we have speakers that didn't show up, I ask people if they have any topics they'd like to learn, and if I know anything about it, I'll talk about it. Otherwise, we can go around and introduce ourselves and talk about what we do, why we're into coding, and how we came to Women in Code. And we can also do both of that, so we have another hour and a half. So, did you have a question? Or you brushing?
I was just
brushing your hair. Okay. Anybody have something they've heard about recently that they want more information on, they don't know about? Abby?
I don't know if this is like an issue I've been encountering a lot in the last couple of months, and it has to do with AJAX requests.
Okay, in JavaScript.
And I've been like developing these little applications for just free code camp. Like one of them generates an instant, or you just press a button and it gives you a quote. Like it gets a quotation from a quotation API. And it keeps, I can do it locally, or like I can run it on CodePen, but when I try and host it from GitHub, it gives me this mixed content error, and the research I've done seems to say that GitHub Pages is HTTPS and the API I'm calling is HTTP, and you can't do that. And so I've been doing a lot of research, and I have not been able to find a solution for it. And I wonder if any of you have like experience with that at all.
Well, it also depends what browser you're using. So if you're using
Yeah.
Chrome gets very conservative with
Yeah.
HTTP and HTTPS. If you're using Safari doesn't care. Safari is the least secure browser. I've never had that problem.
I ran into that, like, literally just the other week. I was playing around with Vue and an API, and it worked fine on my
a server like on my
Yeah.
computer, and as soon as I posted it to GitHub pages, it was like, no,
Yeah.
not fetching that information for you.
Yeah.
Did you find a solution? No, I didn't. I got kind of stuck on that. I couldn't find anything about it.
But you're not alone.
Yeah, that's I tried doing it, like I originally just wrote it in vanilla JavaScript because I just wanted to learn JavaScript. But then I rewrote it in jQuery because I thought that jQuery had so much, that it would take care of that. And I ended up encountering the same problem. And then I learned about this thing called cross-origin naming. I don't know if you can use that yet. And that worked for like a couple days, and then it stopped working. And then I keep hearing things like, oh, now they're requiring different headers. And it's a problem that
Yeah,
keeps
I was
growing
thinking
and-
you might need to have a specific header on there, so when you're doing, that request, it's a HTTP request, and there's FTP and there's SOAP and there's different protocols. This is a hyper transfer text protocol, and so it's expecting you to send some stuff with your packet. You're sending a packet to them and saying, this is what I want. And so you'll have usually the header, which you could be asking for HTML or JavaScript or XML, and then it would know like this is the content I'm looking for at this address. And then you can have different things you put on there. This is called the payload. So whatever is in here is the payload. So when you hear about APIs, they'll talk about like the payload and stuff. You send it and then they send you something back. And so that's the response payload. So headers, you can have like application content, JSON, XML, something else. I don't know all the headers, but I would look because there's cross-origin scripting, which is to protect you from different things. So if you know the specific address of the API you're hitting, sometimes you can whitelist it and say like, I want you to get anything from here, like they're trusted. So at my work, some of the things we've done, we blocked like anything from hitting certain URLs except for the API that we built ourselves, our internal API, because we had Ember like front end application on one site, and then we had our Node API on another site, and Node was like, only things coming from this address can come. Otherwise, it was called like a cross-origin scripting error. It'd get upset like someone was trying to hack us or something. I'm not sure about the HTTP and HTTPS, how to get around the mixed content. There must be something out there. Sometimes it's just searching for different keywords than you're using, and then you'll find it on Stack Overflow. But I would look into the headers and especially cross-origin.
How do you add headers? Can you do that if you're not?
You can in Ajax. You can't with jQuery. You can with Ajax. You can also, if you want to Google how to do an Ajax request in just straight JavaScript, then they have is like 3 times as long, the code, but then you do set everything, manually. So you say, these are the headers, this is the content, this is the type, is it binary content, is it a photo, is it text, you're just sending someone's name if you're, submitting a form. And so you can say what it is. There's different types of data you can send. There's binary, there's text, octet stream, different things. So.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Yeah. You might have to do it just in straight JavaScript. And there's plenty of examples of that on Stack Overflow. And then you might have to play around with different headers until one of them works.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Okay.
Is there a security concern about, like, if you were just gonna whitelist the HTTP domain and you said, like, anything from this is fine with or without?
Well, if you're working with a specific quote API, then you would say that exact domain, whatever that is. If you trust them, then you trust them, and if it's not you know, in her case, she's requesting from them, you're doing a GET request. So you're not worried about the content that's returned. If you were a bank and you had people's financial information and people were requesting information from you want to know who they are, you know, and you probably have very strict things, you know, that they can request, you know, from your API.
Right.
Because you don't want any data leaking. So with our API, you also needed a token. You needed a encrypted token. So our front end app had an encrypted token that it would pass with the request. And so we would check that token and we would decrypt it and say, yes, you're who you say you are. You can query the information.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Anything anyone's been struggling with? Something you don't know?
Well, so my program's gonna be done at the end of February, so I know my job, that was a perfect lightning talk for me. I've been thinking about the job search lately. And one thing that I feel like I keep coming across is that a lot of people who I've heard from as speakers are talking about their engineering backgrounds. And I love that. I think that's great. I love that they're trying something different, going to the front end. But in a way, it's like I have a teaching background.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not from engineering.
Sure.
Where do I fall in line with other people who are also seeking those positions and computer science degree people and all that kind of stuff? Is it normal to seek, in seeking diverse backgrounds of people, is it kind of normal to have somebody who's got oh, you have a social science background, or
I have a degree in theology.
Okay. Woo!
So
okay.
I do not have an engineering degree.
Okay.
I don't even have a teaching degree. They look at your portfolio.
Okay.
What have you built? Because that shows you know what you're talking about. They also see how you interview. But a lot of companies are looking for people with more soft skills. The consultancy I got hired at in February, after I'd been there a month, made me lead on a team. And there were guys I was leading who had been programming for 8 years, another guy 30 years, but they saw I had leadership abilities. And this was a new framework for all of us. So all of us were going to be learning. And they thought, she's been doing the most learning recently, so she's the most comfortable with learning. And it was interesting because there were times where my coworkers would be like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, that's every day of my life. Let's learn together. Let's Google. And they're like, oh. Because they've been doing PHP for years and we're experts at it. And now we're doing JavaScript and Ember. And I had that much experience with Ember. I'd done a side project for fun. And I was like, yeah, we can build a production level application in Ember. Yes, with XML.
Yes, we can.
Of course. And by the end, they said, Holly's an expert in XML. And I was like, don't ever give me any more XML. Yes, I am an expert after 4 months. So I think they want to see people who are passionate about doing this, because some guys have been doing it for a while and they're just oh yeah, I get to write another for loop or something. And you're like, yay, I get to write a for loop, this is so fun. So I think they're looking for people who come from different perspectives. And then also you bring other skills, like I said, the soft skills, but also just critical thinking is really what they're looking for. So critical thinking is used in almost every job. And if you can just show that you're good at that, that's what they're looking for. So I would share stories, if you've come across things that were hard to do and how you figured them out and got over that block. That's usually what I do. The first job I took was at a startup. I went to a meetup here. They had a mingling time where you could meet companies that were looking and people who were looking. And it was for an education company and I was the only developer. And I don't recommend that. It was very hard. I had to find mentors. I had to go to a lot of meetups. I was working 80 hours in the beginning just to keep things going because I was by myself. And the agency who had built the application was in Siberia.
So they didn't speak English. Their front-end team was here in Austin who did the design, but their back-end team, the programmers, were in Siberia. And there was no documentation or anything. Some of the comments in the code were in Russian. And so I was just like learning, and I was terrified every day that the CEO was going to come to me. She was this high-powered lawyer in education. She was a lobbyist for the State Board of Texas for 12 years and then started this education company. I was terrified every day she's going to come and ask me something I don't know the answer to. So I got very good at saying, I need to research that. Look, give me some time, because she always be like, can we do this? Our users want this. We need to do this. And she was always changing her mind. But I found some great people in the Rails community, because that was what I was doing. And one guy met with me every weekend for 3 months to code with me, because I was a beginner and didn't know what I was doing. I just asked him a question after one of the meetups. They go to mingling time. They call it socialization practice. They go drink at the pub. So I went and I was just talking to people, and I was talking to this guy, and I was asking him some questions, and he said, well, let me code with you on, at a coffee shop. And I was like, okay. And he helped me, and he was like, this is a travesty. You're by yourself at a startup. How could they have hired you? And he cared. And so I found like the best mentors were the ones who cared.
Yeah.
They were like, we need more women in programming. We need better quality programmers. I can mentor you. And so I found some good ones. The Haskell guy I met with, he coded with me for 9 months every week. And I always paid for their coffee, their muffin, tacos, bought them scotch, whatever they wanted, and just thanked them. And it was fun. So I had, the mentor who's helping with Rails. He told me what books to read, what blogs, what I needed to learn, where to fill in the gaps, because I had lots of gaps in my knowledge. But I still was terrified for about the first 9 months that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm an imposter. I don't belong here. I have to Google everything, and everything is so hard and takes me so long. But then after I was there for 9 months, I went on vacation to Finland with my husband, and while I was there, our server got hacked, and I'm the only person, so I have to fix it from Finland. So I was like, all right, this is it. This is, when you have to see what you're made of. And so I got a hot spot, because we were in a village on a lake. My mother-in-law has a cabin, and there was one electronics store in the village. I got a hot spot. I paid for like a month of internet, and I went into the cabin, and it took 6 days to rebuild the server. I was working like 18 hours a day, and I did it. I was able to figure out how we got hacked. It was the Siberians didn't put a firewall on one of our search engines, and it got hacked. And so I was able to, clear all the data, make sure nothing had been stolen or corrupted. Basically, a bot had got installed and was attacking other servers from our server. And so the company who we hosted with said, like, you have unusual activity, we're putting you in quarantine. If you don't fix this, we're gonna take you down. And so we were only down for 1 day, which is terrible, but we were so small, we didn't have that many users, so it didn't matter. But after I did that, I was like, this is the worst thing you can go through, is having your server hacked. And if I can Google that and figure that out, I can do anything. I belong here. And then I wasn't scared anymore. So I think everyone will have that in their journey. They'll have something where it's just so tough and you overcome it, and then you're like, all right, I belong here. Nobody can tell me I don't and intimidate me. And so after that job, I went to work at another place, and I wasn't a good fit there. And I was sad, because I worked for a year to learn a new language to work at this company, because I really wanted to work there. I networked, and I got there, and then I was only there for like 3.5 months, and they let me go, and I was like devastated. Like, I worked so hard to get here, and this is the company I wanted to be with, but they're just like, you're not a good fit. And so then I had to go find a job again, and I was just like, I hate job searching. And Google reached out to me on LinkedIn, because I think they were trying to contact all the women, and they asked if, you're laughing, yeah, they have a diversity push. So I was like, sure, I'll interview with Google. And then they sent me this course I had to go through, and all these problems I needed to know, which if you have a computer science degree, you probably know them, but I don't. And I started breaking out in hives, and I was just like, I don't need this stress. I don't need to work at Google. Maybe in 5 years I'll work at Google, but not now. And so I contacted them, and I said, you know what, I'm no longer longer interested in the position. Thank you, think of me again next time. And I just interviewed with Austin companies and people who I knew and people whose, you know, friends worked for them, and I was like, I need another safe place where I can grow. And then I got hired where I currently work, and I love it. You know, they made me a team lead and stuff, and it's been a great experience. But it's the best job I've been at, I think, in all of my career. And so, you know, it's a journey, but you'll find your place.
I want to add the first guy that in my cohort actually found a job is a 20-year-old kid. He's 20 years old, not even graduated from college, obviously. Yeah, but he's the first one to find a job. So it really doesn't matter if you have an engineering degree. I think it's definitely easier for me if I have an engineering degree, but I mean, we have a lot of classmates that doesn't have engineering degrees. You'll find.
Yeah, a friend of mine right now, he was almost a vice president at a computer company. He has a law degree. And he just was interested in computers, and he's just that smart, like he can pick it up, and he convinced someone to give him a shot. And now he's like a GM, like a lead project manager guy. Yeah, he's amazing.
I think this is where we now should introduce ourselves. So I'm Holly, you all know my life journey now. Let's go to the red tights.
I'm Abby, and I work at the Capitol, and I'm a librarian and / web developer there.
Awesome. And what interested you in Women Who Code?
I started doing free code camp, and because I just want to pick up more languages, and I started listening to all these different coding podcasts, and one of them was saying you should go to meetups and do all these things. So I just kind of randomly looked at the meetup scene here, and I'm really happy I did because it's awesome. And honestly, Women Who Code is like the only one I've ever gone to. I might branch out, but I've just been pretty satisfied with it up till now. So.
Well, thank you.
I'm Emma. I'm just currently a full-time student at ACC for a web development bootcamp. And I got interested in Women Who Code when Nadia invited me to the hackathon in October. And so since then, I've been coming to as many of, trying new meetups too, because I was kind of, I wanted to come to Women Who Code, but I didn't want to go by myself for the longest time. So after the hackathon, we had like a great group. And I still meet with one of the people from the group every week.
Awesome.
We code together, and we tried to finish like a Secret Santa app before Christmas kind of thing. And then now it's just been kind of like experimenting. Like this made me comfortable with experimenting.
Good.
So I'm glad to be back.
Awesome. Back corner.
Oh, hi. I'm Jen. I have a background in linguistics. I work for the EXO group right now. They're like the wedding people.
Oh,
Have you
they're
ever seen
so
the Knot
cool.
magazine?
Don't they host a Node meetup too?
I think they do. So I'm a taxonomist on their data intelligence team.
Nice.
And the very first thing they asked me to do was monitor how the taxonomies are being used. Like, the taxonomy is whenever you look on a website and you're doing some search and you see like on the left bar options to choose from, that's basically the taxonomy that you're looking at and choosing from. So then I worked with a couple of engineers to like figure out what databases we needed to use in the company, and I wrote Python code to interact with like these Mongo databases or NoSQL databases, and it was just super fun and super hard. So I'm interested in becoming better.
Cool. Thank you for coming.
My name's Karen. I've been a software engineer for a year and a half. I went through the Make It Square program, and before that I started coming to Women Who Code meetups and found them encouraging, and here I am.
And Karen and I work together, and she's awesome.
Thanks. Same.
Hey, I'm Ellen. I'm a designer and developer, half and half. I'm sort of am the web department at the company I work at, and I've been doing this for like 2 years at this point, and I haven't been to a Women Who Code before, so hello. And I just wanted to kind of meet some other people who were doing this, and
got interested in coding because I always wanted to make like a mobile app. And then I did it for like a project, and once I started learning Java, I started becoming more interested in how it works and how like coding works. So then I just came here for my first time to like network with other people and learn more about how like women code.
Great.
I'm Chandra Nalogan. I'm data storage engineer. Not coded in 12 years, and I don't plan to code. Just here.
Well, welcome. Glad you're here with your daughter.
I'm Vinuta. I work at I'm patent paralegal analyst.
Cool. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
I'm Cece.
Actually, the first Women Who Code meetup I came is actually last year, January's Lightning Talk, and I remember Holly was trying to find a job back then, and I remember you actually did a Lightning Talk on data structure because you were studying on the Google interview.
I was.
So
I
yeah.
was studying so hard.
Yeah, I remember all that, and then it really inspired me. And I think I was a hardware engineer before, and actually in hardware engineer, a lot of your job is still coding. I do a lot of test script, basically just writing for loops all day long. So I'm an expert on for loop, but that's the extent I know about coding before I joined MakerSquare. So, but yeah, I've been doing this, and I came to see all these people that can do it, and that's kind of inspired me to actually quit my job and then join the software side. So yeah, I am as far as my first day of actual software developer. Very excited.
Look how much has changed in a year.
Yeah, I know.
That's great.
Thank you.
So I'm Sindhu. I recently moved to Austin about 3 months ago. So I started my career as a SQL database administrator. So I had some little bit of programming knowledge from my engineering, like C and C++ I've done programming, and that's where it ended. After engineering, I started SQL programming, and then when I came to US, I started as a QA engineer here. So I picked up PL SQL at work, and I started coding in PL SQL. So I worked at a utility industry in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and now I think I'll be starting very soon next week in Austin Energy. So
Cool.
yeah.
So with a utility, the code it's running for like the city, for the city's utilities.
So what I'll be involved is, my role will be as a QA engineer. I'll be testing their applications, and as needed for a selection of accounts and everything, I'll be like writing the queries in PLSQL. So there won't be very much coding in it. It's just like the basic.
The applications you're testing though, what do they do?
So we'll be testing their customer care and billing system.
Okay.
Yeah. So
She's gonna fix them. She's gonna fix
Make
them.
sure they charge me the right amount.
Cool. I didn't realize that you were right in that department that I was complaining about.
She wasn't there.
But she's gonna fix
I know,
it.
that's why next week, that's why I'm totally let out on her.
She hasn't started there yet.
I know.
She's gonna fix it.
I was like, yeah, you're gonna fix it. You're gonna fix it. It's fine.
I'm Nadia. I'm at the ACC bootcamp with Emma, and I started coming to Women Who Code with the hackathon last October. I had a really good time, so I just wanted to be amongst other people who are on this coding journey.
What was the app that you guys made at the hackathon? So I don't know if no one's been to a hackathon. It's a weekend long. You come and you build something, usually from scratch, in one weekend, and then hopefully there's prizes. But they feed you, give you lots of food and drinks and stuff. And I did one at Athena Health 2 years ago with my friend Sada. She's my co-director with Women Who Code, and we made an app for tracking your menstrual cycle that we're now rewriting. I'm in the middle of. But what did you make?
We made the walking app. Hey, I'm walking here.
You were one of the winners.
Yes. So, it was really cool.
That's awesome.
And we're gonna try and rework it, or finish
Were all
it.
three of you on it?
Mm-hmm.
And who were the other members?
Sam, Mallory, and Doreen.
Samantha was my coworker at my first job, the startup.
Oh.
I got her hired through Women Who Code because we needed an administrator, and I also needed someone to help with coding. And so she has an engineering background, but hadn't done any coding in a long time. She had a business degree, but she wanted to work because she was bored. So she worked at the startup with me. We shared a closet. Literally, we were like a foot apart from each other in this closet.
Oh.
Yeah, it was fun.
Actual closet.
Yeah, we rented space near the Capitol at one of the education buildings, and so they just had a bunch of offices you could rent, and we were in a converted closet, so it was a little moldy in there and had no air conditioning, but it's alright. I was there for 2 years. And by the time I left, I worked my schedule down, so I wasn't working 80 hours a week. I got it down to 40 because I managed my boss's expectations better.
What did your guys' app do?
It mapped, the problem we were addressing was, you can explain it better.
Sidewalks that end in the downtown area, so like helping to prevent pedestrian deaths and all that kind of stuff. So we created a situation where, an app where you could put in your current location and then wherever you wanted to go, and it would map a route that didn't have ending sidewalks.
Oh, nice.
And what APIs did you use? How did you get that data?
Google API, and did we use another one?
We used the Open Austin.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Socrata.
And they had something about sidewalks, like whether a street had sidewalks or no sidewalks?
Yeah, where it would end, and then how many, we also tracked, they had open data about where pedestrian deaths had occurred.
Yeah.
And then the other one was crime rate. So we thought also like if at like another stage, if like you're like single female or something like that, like walking alone or whatever, like avoid crime areas. So we had like a crime layer. Yeah.
I think you won for best tech stack because you had the most interesting technology.
It would be good if it's integrated with the Google Maps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this a separate app?
No, it's all integrated in the same app.
Okay. What's the app?
Hey, I'm walking here.
Did you ever publish it live or is it still
No,
just
we
tested?
wanted to deploy it to Heroku, but we're actually meeting on the 14th of January with everybody again, the same team, and I think we're gonna try and finish it then.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yay. Let us know when it's done. We'll tweet it out.
Yeah, sure.
My name is Arlene, and I am an artist and a designer, and I've been working in the arts and creative fields for over 20 years. And what really got me, I work for the ballet right now as well. And what got me started down this road is that I don't make enough money. I used to, but with everything, all the changes that have been going on last decade, it just like has been, my income has been going like this, no matter how I'm just working it all the time. So I decided I need to make more money. I needed a new challenge, and I also work in film. And one of the projects I worked on was in Dallas. It's called 11/22/63, which is a Hulu. I don't know if you guys have seen that on Hulu. But I did 6 weeks in Dallas on it. We had 900 extras we had to dress.
Whoa.
And my department, costumes, compared to all these other departments, we're in the dark ages. And no one can really put together this thing in my head that I want to put together unless you're in there. But people in my field don't go into programming. So I'm just one of those people that's just like, damn it, I'm gonna fix it. So I just started looking into it and seeing what direction to go, because just all my friends who are in tech, they don't have the problem that I'm having. So I also thought I have all these connections. I should use these connections to my benefit. So they've all been really encouraging, and I think I actually found out about Women Who Code when I went to go pick up my Google Fiber box. My apartment has Google Fiber, and I met someone there just picking up my box who was also going to ACC. I'm studying programming for an associate's degree. And this girl that I met picking up my Google Fiber box told me about your group.
Awesome. Well, we've actually done some events down at Google Fiber. We've done some yoga events and networking events with Girl Develop It and General Assembly and Galvanize. So
Not too long ago, it was the one that had like the Google recruiters there that would help you like look over your resume, do mock interviews with you. That was really, and you got a headshot for free.
I have a tech HR person who's one of my best friends.
Oh.
So she's gonna hook me up.
Cool.
Awesome.
Is ACC a school or something?
Austin Community College. And I had done a lot of research on where I wanted to go to school because I'm just very careful about where I invest my money. I want to make sure that I'm in the right place. And ACC had a really good program. And it wasn't, I thought that if I went to a boot camp, it would be too short, that I wouldn't be able to absorb it and get enough practice to really like take off. So that I picked the associates. And this semester, all 3 of my teachers were PhDs, so I felt like it was very rigorous. It was very challenging. I was surprised.
Karen, should have been closing the door. Well, we still have this room for about another 15 minutes, so we can eat and talk, or you can ask me questions. We could take a 5-minute break and then come back and do more question and answer time, or just network. If you guys want to take a break, I think the restroom is through the lobby to your left and then the right. You want to take a 5-minute break?
Yeah, sure.
Stretch. Happy New Year.
What track are you on for the software?
It's Associate of Applied Science it's programming specifically. So it's like the programming. Or no, guys.
That was actually, that's so funny that you said that.
I think that's a great idea, just to keep reminding yourself over and over.
Do you want to write it down?
Once you start going down, a lot of it is very similar in that, you're creating variables, you're setting your
So,
I mean, I thought there were a lot of things, Python, Python, C++. The only thing is that Python usually works on both operating systems. C++ can work on Mac, but you gotta download
Depends on like the highest score for the previous year.
What you mean? It's a terrible story, but yeah. It's philosophy, really.
Kind of how I know.
Hidden underneath.
I'm like, I don't know. That one, funny, like, just sure.
Yeah, and I think another thing, just, and I don't know if I can picture what the kid entails, but what I'm also taking is, for example, I took a language this last semester, so that, because that was one of the things I noticed when I went to, what are agencies looking for when they're hiring for the things that I saw again and again was, I wish programmers knew something about architecture. And that's why I take a networking class, where I would know something about architecture, and I could yeah, it's good to know that, so in some ways, that we're associates is more well-rounded. Yeah, because it depends on, you can always pick up later. Focus on programming, get yourself a job, then you don't worry about that. You know, that's one of the things that you brought that up. You're like, I know some guys who apply for, they only have 40%. That's one of the things that HR people will tell you. Don't necessarily apply for the job that you're qualified for. Go for the one you aspire to. Even if you're not fully there, if they can't find anybody with all those qualifications, they're gonna go to the next person who has the most.
Or somebody that they're like, okay, it's this guy, or guy, because they have
this guy who has like more qualifications, however, is not somebody that I would want to be working with 40 hours a week.
It's like basically, it's like 10 years, 6 years, and 1 year. The one I learned so you either the 10 or the 6 years, and they were just like, and then he was like, I'm not spending those.
Yeah, they were like, he specifically said they were, he like acted arrogant. Like, I know what, you know, and he just
And some people act that way because they think that they have to
overcompensate.
Yeah. And really what I've been reading about is that it's really, are you a team player?
Yeah.
Can you fit into a team? And in my world, everything I've done has been team.
Yeah.
Sometimes you work together for longer periods of time. Usually, you know, especially on film, it's like 8 weeks. Or photo shoot might be 2 weeks. First ballet is, like, you know, you have to get in, be able, you know, not offend everyone, by the way, and be able to work as part of the team. You gotta be able to read that person and say, you know what? I'm a very big personality. I'm the boldest person ever. I gotta rein it in. I gotta rein it in. Yeah. But conflict can be good. Conflict can be creative. Conflict can actually create like stability. It can just all harmony with me. Although ideally, I want to be able to work harmoniously. Yeah. But that's one of the things too. One of the so working in groups, being able to work with people from around the world, which I've had to work with in that kind of team setting, it's not an interview. And so it would be interesting. I think, you know, what you're saying about the soft skills, that's more what you're about. Teams to somewhere important, like just what you were explaining. He went with a person with 1 year, so he was 6 to 10 because maybe they're more valuable.
That, and he also said that he wasn't, like, the lack of arrogance was, and I think he was also, he knew he didn't know everything and just like, that's who I want on the team, what if we learn completely different
Honestly,
when we transition to something new, I don't want the dude who's only been doing this for 10 years, I want the guy who's engaged in
we're not going to allow the children.
Right.
Try to say and then press what you want. Oh, it was going to do a lot. We should all like look up on LinkedIn or something.
Yes.
You would also want to.
Okay, if you guys agree.
Yeah, sure. Everybody's like different size. Yeah. I love your car.
I work at the ballet now. Oh, no. I don't ballet dance, but I'll go to a club and dance. But I've never ballet, I've never been a ballet dancer. My boss has been a dancer. He was a dancer for over 20 years. Started in Ukraine.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. That's serious.
Yeah, and there it is considered a viable, legitimate year-round job.
So is opera singing still an orchestra?
Yeah, in Europe, but not here. Very seasonal. Yes, I know. It is. It really is. No, actually, it's my boss has a reputation as being a very potentially difficult machine to work with. But I understand where he's coming from. And he really likes my work, and you know, he's super picky, and so we work together. But this was my first work at the ballet I was working, so we'll see once we settle in what it is, but It's been great.
So I
It's only 9 months old.
Yeah. Thing with like communication.
And
supposed to be for a help
I was just like,
Oh my God.
the reason I hadn't gone back to school.
That's what I always do.
I just want to go back into debt. I go back into debt. Other people that may not have seen and but then I came to this place where it's just like, I'm going to have to sell how long this is my sister.
Sure. I've never done that before either. I've only done it on my laptop, so.
It's great for networking.
And then, if you try to, through your connections, you'll see because I have all these people in my field.
I can just sort of say, you know, the first time I went through, I wasn't taking anybody's advice. I was pursuing my dream. It was all me. But then this time around, I'm like, I'm going to listen to everything they tell me. Alright, I'm emotionally attached. I'm not necessarily just attached to this. It's more, it's a problem to figure out. Maybe I'm logically attached. I'm not emotionally attached. If that makes sense.
If you're doing front end, and like, that's one of the tough things about our classes for sure. I don't know like what it presents you with like a topic, administrators are loath to kind of go back and show us a solution because it's like, oh, there's some really good students, so I don't want you to
testing, they were just like, they come up
to see my way of doing things and then
resources.
That's so frustrating
think
though.
it's yours,
But you have to set an example first.
It's probably not so
When is somewhere you? What have you done? Do you have any?
Yes, and I've got everybody from our parties on there as well. So you'll get all three of these.
Well, I put a bug in my ear and just say,
Are you ready to take off?
okay, good in school and, you know, see if she'll talk to you or I don't know if they have openings at her company.
or even just talk about like what's attractive on a resume.
And sometimes they have a secondary level of stuff and they'll teach you all this.
I'm now getting an idea because now I should do like, I'll get all this information from her.
Yes!
And then she,
Tomorrow?
Can you please do that? I'll buy you a drink.
I'll try to do that. I'm gonna send a text to myself.
I'll take you out for a drink after.
Alright.
Yeah,
Because that would be really, I think that would be great, and she would love that, you know.
Now would I?
Everything's interesting.
Oh, I like it.
I watched it on YouTube, I was like.
Oh, wait, is it on YouTube?
Yeah.
I do.
Wait, which one?
It's just
I know, it was,
Oh, yes.
I haven't been getting on there very often, but now that I've done this schooling, I'm gonna go back to it. See what happens. Do you guys have it on your?
I have the ACC program. I have not changed anything else. Like I haven't put the tech stack. And I haven't done that. I need to do that.
Well, they are mine, so it was great.
Yeah, it's like deep, like we have to do that.
There's a lot of doing,
Sammy,
a lot
it's
of
okay.
should have a shared account.
Yeah, seriously.
The information I'm reading about it is like just not sinking in yet.
Okay, so I think
there's going back to it, but eventually it will.
Sure.
And I feel like it's ageism.
Oh, yeah.
Then maybe
Yeah,
more sense.
yeah, I think so. I think all those are like just fancy words for something that you
Done and
want.
done.
Yes.
I think that's
You're
all.
gonna get a lot of
people just like to make
invitations.
scary words.
Yes, yeah.
We connected, they were like, what about Naya? I was like, she's on my network, just so I didn't connect with her.
I'm glad, I was a little lucky in my last name because it's so long, but now it's really easy for people to find me.
I just searched through about 1,000 Emily Pattersons, so.
Literature.
Yeah, that's an unusual last name too, I never.
was really interested in the intersection of linguistics.
Yeah.
Semi-uncommon Spanish last names, but so what did you do?
Yeah.
So.
That's helpful if you're Googling. Literature and methodologies and gravitated towards the like,
Yes.
I guess so.
I think we're taking off.
questions.
Um,
Which was really fun, but.
We're gonna make a short stop to give Addie a ride to John's
in that
spot.
sphere, so. I've been wandering around since.
What's the next one? What's the next thing to do?
Do you have the otter box? Is that what that was?
It's a life thing.
Okay.
But it's not really life thing. Just FYI.
Is it your second one? Your second one?
Well, but it's the second phone too, but look,
Okay.
look, it's cracked right there, look at the edge, and then this button's all, yeah.
I wanted to tell you, I watched it 11/26/33.
You did, and did you like it?
I did, I liked it.
Yes.
Oh, you did?
The first episode, because I don't have Hulu, I have Netflix.
Oh. I
Um,
thought it was pretty good.
well, Stephen here, and produced by JJ Abrams.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a great time.
Bye.
Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you. And we were just talking like I was gonna talk to
Y'all
my.
should do a talk.
I was,
Talk about something.
Yeah, talk about something. Well, school starts, and I'm gonna be going to Fredericksburg, working in Fredericksburg on the weekends, and so I'm kind of slammed, but I'm gonna try to figure out when I
If you can, it'd be great, but if not, you can still come.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye, best of luck.
Thanks.
Thank you, Susie. That was great. That was great. Yeah, thank you. Appreciated that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the last time was a lot more bootcamp students here, so I think a lot of people have jobs in already. So.
No, the ACC students are gonna be looking for tech jobs.
I mean, it's helpful for me too, like I have a job, but it's also like I didn't have any formal training, and if I wanna go look at, a job that's like for reals in tech and not just like,
Yeah.
I created a department.
Yeah. That was my problem, because like,
I don't know how to do it yet.
I went to work at my college after I graduated. I had the degree in theology, but I was studying web design as like my minor. And I asked the dean of students, like, do you guys have any internships for this web program, which I'm the only student of? And he said, no, but we need a new website.
There you
So
go.
I rebuilt their website. We used to use
Nice.
Dreamweaver, not really coding.
Right.
And so I worked there for 5 years, and I wanted to go into web development, but I didn't know how to do that,
Right.
because I'm like, I don't have
Right.
a degree, and I didn't know anyone in the industry, and there
So
wasn't a
hard.
meetup to go meet people. So I was like, well, I have this like portfolio of graphic design, so I went and did marketing and graphic design. But I went back to the boot camp because I'm like, I can't get into the industry without having a portfolio and something I can show.
How did you decide like how to balance that, like if you have interest in graphic design and interest in making the designs come to life, like?
Well, before I went to code school, I wasn't doing as much graphic design. I was working for a nonprofit for people with disabilities, and I was actually a program manager for some of our camps for children with disabilities. And I wasn't really doing any design. Occasionally I did some graphic design if our marketing department was floored, and flooded and whatever. But mostly it was just program management, which is more logical.
Right.
So I always felt like I had a creative side and a logical side. And when I started looking back into coding, I was like, this is very creative. You're making a program and you're making the computer do things. This is fun. And I thought when I went to the code school that I would like the front end and doing more of the design because that was my background. And then when I got into it, I actually really liked the logic part. And so I wanted to be a back-end developer. I was like, I don't want to do the design anymore. I want to do all this logic and calculations and hard stuff.
Yeah.
But all my jobs have been full stack, so I've actually done both. So I don't have to choose.
That's awesome.
And it's great because we have a designer on staff, and so I can talk to him, and
Great.
he likes that I know about colors and fonts and things.
Yeah.
And he's like, I love working with you, Holly, because I'm always like, well, I don't think we should put the button over there. Like, I really think the button should go over here, and I'll have
have really good discussions, and then there's other developers who never talk to him, and then they finally finish, and he's like, your design is awful, and you can't put this out into the internet. And
Developers who understand white space and why it's important.
yeah, well, some of our people don't even talk to him, and then they're like, yeah, it's done, and he's like, no, it's not done. It's not done until I see it.
Right. It's so funny. I gotta admit, being the designer for the work that I'm eventually gonna have to develop is like a really weird horrible psychological experiment with myself. It's always like, oh, this would be so cool. I'm gonna like design this thing, and it's gonna do that, and it's gonna do this, and then it's like, wait a minute, I have 2 weeks to make this. Like, I don't know how to do this. This is not happening.
Yeah, with our company, because we're a software consultancy, usually they meet with the designer first, and he does a lot of prototyping for them. And sometimes some of the stuff he makes is not possible with like what we're programming. He uses prototyping software, and he's just like, drop a button, drop a form, color this, color that, and he'll use a font like we don't have available, or something. And so a lot of times they have to do a caveat, like, this is a prototype, this is what it could look like
theoretically.
And then I get in there and I'm like, we can't make them, and you like zoom down and go across the page. Sorry, nobody's made that.
It doesn't happen. Yeah.
What do I expect for the first day?
For the first day, it's probably going to be paperwork. You have to have all paperwork. They're going to give you a computer. Maybe someone is going to talk to you about all of the HR stuff for the company. They'll give you your desk, set up your email. That might be the first day. Just that. Maybe they'll say, here's your guide or mentor. Let's see. Yeah, when I started at my current company, the first 2 weeks they had me doing maintenance on apps in PHP. I didn't know any PHP. There was one guy I could ask questions from. So whenever I stuck, I was just like, hey, I need a database, and I don't have a database. And your documentation doesn't tell me how to make a database. It's very familiar. So, just ask questions. Some of them are more hands-on, some of them aren't. So, you'll just feel it out, ask questions, Google things. It might be slow the first 2 weeks. I don't know, where are you starting? Okay, yeah. They're big corporations, so it'll probably be slow. Yeah. It's not a startup where it's like, can you start right now writing code? We have this thing we need to ship next week.
Yeah, that was my was last month's lightning talk. So I had these 2 offers, one's in the other one's in the startup, and that would be the only one. And I was debating on these 2.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I mean, I will be the only one, but it just sounds so fun. You're the only one. You can make all the choices. It just sounds so fun.
Yeah, no one asks questions.
Yeah,
It's really hard. Like we had somebody who was doing had like a computer science background. He recently left to go do more cool stuff than we were doing at Incubator. But he had like sort of system administration kind of experience. He didn't have any like back end experience, but it's like really hard to be kind of starting out and be like, I don't know what I'm doing, and Google can only help you so far.
Yeah, when I started the code school, the teachers didn't like answering questions. They'd be like, Google it. And I was like, I don't know what to Google.
Exactly,
I
you know
don't
what to
know
ask.
the words.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what we're doing. Right? Like, there's a whole tech vocabulary, and I don't know it.
Right. Yeah. Like in the beginning, I Google something and will come up with Stack Overflow with like -20 floating points, and the answer is like, why don't you Google it?
Yeah.
It's like, I just Googled and got this link.
Right.
Yeah.
I found that. So like the hardest thing for me was that like I could Google like, this is an error I'm getting, how do I fix? And like that would fairly reliably give me useful information. But when it came to stuff like, what's better, gulp or grunt? What should I do? What are best practices for how to set up a server that have like, and then it's like
argue with each other.
Yeah, and it's like there's nobody to be like, okay, here is what we do, and here is why we do it, and here is how the process goes, and if you well, if you're running into this kind of problem, you should kind of try and maybe doing this other thing instead. There's just not
I think a
much
lot of
for that.
developers assume you know more than you know, because they forget how much they learned. And they're like, oh, everybody knows this. No, not everybody knows it.
Yeah. Like the why behind this way
Yeah.
is better. It's not all like, okay, functional programming versus object oriented. It's like, no, why do you do it that way? Because I need to know.
Are you learning functional programming?
I had to kind of jump into it because it was the only way to solve a particular problem I was running into, and I was like, okay.
What language were you using?
JavaScript. Okay. I was running into issues with promises. Like I needed to do a recursive functional thing so that looping over loops, over promises.
I love functional programming.
Really?
And I'm not very good at object oriented because I've never really done it. You know, I did Ruby with Rails and it was object oriented, but everything I was adding was like functional with JavaScript. And then my current company, still seems more functional because we rely on that API to give us our data and stuff, and so we're not using the strength of object oriented, but it's interesting because so many programmers now are saying like, well, it's not that great. It leads you into inheritance hell and dependencies. You know, like if you're gonna set up, this model, but it requires this model, and that requires this thing, and requires that thing, and like to test something, you need 20 things. And so I'm kind of happy because I'm like, well, I never learned it very well because I didn't understand it. And I always liked the functional one, and then I went and studied Haskell, which is pure functions. Like that's all it has.
It's just function.
You want a data structure? Write a function.
Great. That's awesome. It's crazy. It's
Just calculus. And I didn't take calculus in school, so I was like, oh yeah, learning for the first time.
small programming.
But yeah.
Yeah, I keep hearing that functional is like the new it thing.
But it's been around since the
However.
60s. It's just object-oriented caught on with Java
Yeah.
and C#.
I know nothing about it.
I know, I'm looking at you like, of course. You just talked tonight, so you obviously know everything.
People should just talk.
But that's cool you know hardware, because I think a lot of us don't know anything about hardware. I had to work with hardware at the last project. But we just had a pipe open and they sent us data from the pipe, and then I ingested it into our app and I made our app do stuff.
There's a wide range of hardware. Like I only know like this much. So yeah. But it's really like what I said, like in my job 80% of the time I'm writing for loops and I feel like coding.
Yeah.
Why not just do full coding?
That's awesome.
Or if else's.
Yeah, yes.
There was a guy who worked on semiconductors, and it was just like, if this, then this, if this, then that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because you're getting the circuits, and so it's either on or off, on or
Yeah,
off.
great.
So it's your true, false, if this, then this.
Yeah, familiar with those two, but a lot of them are the same. So yeah, it was kind of funny.
So what team are you gonna be on, Indy? What are you gonna be doing?
It's called application development. So they are they used to have a lot of in-house modules, and they're trying because they grow so much, they want to swap it to other shelf modules. I think the biggest thing now is Salesforce. They're trying to replace their internal stuff with Salesforce.
Okay, cool.
Actually heard a lot of.
There's a lot of jobs in Salesforce. If you learn the Salesforce platform really well, that's what my husband does. He works on Salesforce.
Yeah, I heard a lot of horror stories also.
Well, they have their own language called Apex,
Oh.
which is like JavaScript or no, Java.
Java.
It's like
Yeah.
Java.
Like so far, like all the people I work with is like if you learn it, you gotta pay a lot.
Yeah, if you learn it, they said there's gonna be like a need for like 1 million jobs or something in 5 years.
Our company uses Salesforce.
Well, anything is learnable. Anything is learnable. Yeah. There's probably a need of Salesforce.
Ah, yeah.
So popular. It's so popular, and yet I
problem with it, and I was looking, I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, it's another friend of mine, she's like, yeah, I done it like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I still got offers, like super high consultant rates, but nope, not in Silicon Valley.
Wow. But you might find you like it, you know, sometimes someone doesn't like something and you do, that's
Lots of girls, lots of
I have a question for you guys. It's not rude, but I'm just like, I've found so much different information about this, but like, what is a decent, normal starting salary for like a junior developer?
So my Haskell mentor worked at Rackspace, and I asked him that because I was working at the startup, and I knew I was paid less. I started at $55,000 because that was the number that popped in my head when they asked me what I wanted. Because I knew people were giving things from 50 to like 70K, and I was like, you're not gonna pay a beginner 70K, right? So he walked through and he said, if you are straight out of computer science degree and you've never built an application or anything, starting salary should be 65. That's where he was a manager at Rackspace, right? And that's what they called an engineer 1. Engineer 2 was someone who could write a REST API, you know, and you knew like the basic workings of a web application, but you're still a beginner and could bring down a server. Anyways, they would make around 75 to 85. And then engineer 3, you usually were really good at one language, so like if you did Python or JavaScript, like you're really good at that, but you didn't know a lot about other languages, so he called him an advanced beginner. And he said they would make between like 90 to 100,000. And then engineer 4, he called a polyglot, someone who knew multiple languages, who could, you know, switch across languages and was really good. That was engineer 4, and they made around like 120 to 140. And he said beyond that is an engineer 5 and 6, and usually like you're advanced expert, and who knows how much you make. Right. He said they had a database securities expert who had been at Rackspace since the beginning, and she was making $1 million. So,
But also, that's a really important job.
very important database security, guard people's data. So I asked him like, where am I? Because I'm, 2 years at a startup. Still, I think I got a raise, so I was making 60, which I was happy with because I've been working at a nonprofit making 36 as a secretary and program manager. So I was like, 55, 60. I'm like, this is great. I've almost doubled my salary. Like I'm happy, but I know I can go higher. So of course I'm gonna try. And he's like, I would say you're, around like 80, 85. And I was like, you want me to ask for like 20,000 more, 25,000 more? So I went to work for a data science company, and when I interviewed the CTO, she asked me like, what are you looking for? I was like, I have to do it because I lead women in code, and if I'm not, you're gonna make me sad. Nobody is. Lean in. And I was like, 80,000. She's like, we don't start below 90. I'm starting here at 90.
Oh my
and
God.
I was like, okay, sure, yes, 90. That's correct.
So they say 8 and then 90.
So
Not 8, 90.
when I did that, my friends, and that was a year ago, my friends were like, I'm gonna do that too. And so there was like 3 other ladies that I'm really good friends with that, we all came from boot camps and volunteer with women who code. So we coded like every week. We did a ladies coding brunch on Sundays. We don't do it anymore. We've all gotten too busy in our jobs, but it was great for 2 years to encourage each other. So one of them, she was only 6 months out of a boot camp, and she really like worked her butt off to learn multiple languages and start interviewing and asking for 90,000. And she went from making 60 at her first job to making 90 at her second. And then she's been there a year now. They've promoted her twice. Because she's somewhere where you can really go up a lot, and she's crazy. She's taught herself like VR and all this stuff. But her goal is to make like 200,000, 3 years out of boot camp. Wow. Because that's what she was making before in the financial industry. So I'm like, well, good for you. But she's insane. Like, she's coding every week and all the time, and I'm like, I probably will get there one day, but I don't have to go do it as fast as you. Like, I like to go to yoga. I like to walk my dog. I'm married. I have a husband.
Do things other than sit for my computer.
And she also stopped like working with women in code because she really wanted to focus on her career. And I mean, I'm excited for her. She's having such great success. But you know, so yeah, it's possible. So when I left the data science company, because they're the ones who were like, oh, you're not a good fit, because the CTO who hired me got actually pushed out by like the general manager a week after I was hired, and she was the one who hired me. So now I no longer have like my sponsor there. So that was sad. And then they decided, my team of all males, that I didn't fit. So I was like, oh. It was 2 weeks before Christmas. Last year. So when I started interviewing again, like I was like, I'm not worth 90,000, I'm not worth 90,000, but that's what they had given me, and so that's what you put down, raise your salary thing. And so I was like, okay, I need to convince myself I'm worth this. So I started studying, like Google had sent me that course to go through. I started learning as much as I could, studying more data structures and stuff, until I was like, okay, I'm confident, I'm worth this. And I had 2 offers the same day, and one offered me 93, one offered me 90, but the one that offered me 93 was traveling 50%. I was going to be a evangelist for Cisco. They wanted me to start meetups for them and stuff because they don't know how to do meetups and things. And it was fun, but I wouldn't be coding really. I would do like teaching and trainings in code, but more working. And I was like, if I do that, then I'm stuck in that route. You know, I could do that later in my career if I'm tired and decide I don't want to code anymore. But if I do it now, I can never go back to coding full time. I'll just go into management. And I was like, I don't want to. I like coding. So I took the other offer, which was 3,000 less, but had 4 weeks vacation and stuff. So it's worth it. So it's possible, you know. I went from making 36 4 years ago to making 90 now, and I didn't know any other career where I could have done that. You know, without getting like a master's and a PhD or something. So
for people who don't go to boot camp, like at what point do you become, I don't know, engineer 1?
I kind of feel with all the questions you asked, you can find a job. Yes, you can definitely get
You
an engineer
know,
one.
I have a job. I just want to figure out how to negotiate. Well, how to either negotiate for more money.
I say my skills are worth it.
But I'm, you know, like I'm the only person who develops or has ever experience developing. So
there's a blog post
like that's
I read this
an
guy.
expensive skill to have.
There's a blog post I read by this guy who he comes off kind of as an asshole, but basically he becomes the most like experienced in what he's doing at the company. Then he would go out and interview somewhere else, get a job offer from them, come back and say, I'm leaving, this company's gonna pay me this much. And then the company where he was working, because he was so essential, would be like, whoa, we'll give you like 20,000 more than what they're giving you, or 10,000 more or something. And he did that like 3 times until he decided he didn't want to work at this other company he found. But then he did like the same thing there. And so within 5 years, I mean, I don't know, he like doubled his salary or something. And he had friends still working at the first company who had gotten like, you know, $5,000 raise, $10,000 raise, while he had doubled his salary. So that's one thing you can do, but you just have to know they may not offer you more, and so you will have to take that offer. So
never play chicken unless you're ready to.
But so if you're the only one, you have all the cards in your hand. Just
There's a serious lack of understanding of like how complicated it is. I get a lot of like, well, can you just XYZ thing that's actually more complicated than it sounds. And
that was the hard part working at the startup that I worked at, because the CEO lawyer didn't know anything about tech, and she'd be like, well, my friends say this is possible. I was like, are they programmers? No, they're business people. I'm like, well, if they're in the programming industry who've been doing this for 30 years, and they say it's not possible. So I always had to have an answer, because she's like, lawyer, argue with me every day. Until I was like, I don't want to work here anymore. This isn't worth it. I'm going to go work with people who know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And it's funny because she still asks, like, do I want to come back? And I'm like, I'm sorry, you can't afford me. Because the guy I found to replace me left after 4 months.
Oh wow.
And I was there 2 years. Wow. And I was just like, now you know how much I was worth.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So
it's just a tough education problem, like when you get a certain amount of face time with CEO of the company to be able to be like, no, I need you to listen to me for 15 minutes to let me explain to you how complicated this thing is that I'm working on. When it's like the end product is really simple, but of course it is, because that's the point, is that it's simple for the end user. If it's complicated for the end user, then you haven't done your job.
if you have those skills, being able to talk, you would do very well with consultancy, because we have to talk to our clients. We're not just, in the back corner programming in a cave, we're interfacing. So they look for people who have good personable skills. And, so I gave examples of like working with the CEO. I was like, my first mentor said, you are a consultant for her, because she knows nothing. So don't look at this as your boss. Think of her as a client, and you're consulting. And you need to explain things to her. And so I stopped looking at her as the authority. I was the authority. And I was like, but I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, well then you research. You say like, I need more time. And sometimes I would research and come back and say, I'm sorry, it's not possible. She's like, well, did you talk to all your friends? Yes, I did. I talked to them. Because when I hired you, you said you knew everyone. Yes. She was hard. It's very hard. She's like, you don't know what you're doing. I'm like, well, you hired me, because you can't afford anyone else.
That's so funny. There's a couple other people who aren't like my boss, but they're always like, well, like, I can go into Web Inspector and like change it like this. Yeah, you can. You can go into the Web Inspector, Google Chrome, and you can change some stuff. That doesn't mean that it's automatically going to generate it that way, and it's going to show in the database that way, and that it's going to.
Yeah.
It's a totally different beast.
Yeah, when I was in the hardware company, so we use the database and we have to push the data to the database. And like in your script, it's just one line, like push this to the database. And then sometimes we want to change the schema, and then we will talk to the database person, like, can you change this, add this column? And he'll be like, okay, I'll give you tomorrow. And we'll be like, why do you have to give it tomorrow? If I do it in Excel, it will be 1 second, add a column. And then I learned it, I was like, yeah, it's a lot more basic. So, yeah, it's hard.
It's like, where's the balance between like, okay, do you have like an hour for us to go through, like how this is gonna work?
Well, that's
if
what
we're gonna do
happened.
it,
I
or
learned
just
to inundate my manager with information until she got tired and said, okay, do it your way.
Okay.
I'd be like, well, let me explain. And so, she never had time, because we were a startup. And so she'd be like, yeah, explain it to me. So I get the whiteboard and I start like drawing and explaining, and she'd be like, okay, Holly, obviously it's more complex than I thought. So if you think you have the right solution, just tell me how long it's gonna take again. I'm like, 3 weeks. Are you sure? I'm like, yes. All right. Okay, fine. The next 3 weeks you're working on that.
Yeah, that's a good strategy.
And then I had a wall of everything she ever wanted, all the feature requests, and we would order them by what's the priority, and I changed almost every week. But then she'd be like, well, why didn't this get done? I'm like, well, remember you decided 2 months ago that it wasn't the priority, these other 4 things were, and that's what I've gotten done, because I also kept a history, like you have project manager application, so I also had an online application to track everything I was doing. And that was another thing my mentor said. He said, you need to put a wall. She's never gonna go and look in your, Jira or Trello or whatever. And he's like, have a wall of index cards, have different columns, like what's been done, this has been suspended, you know, this is next, this is next, this is never.
Yeah.
And so it was, and she actually loved it. When she had people come by, she was like, this is the international headquarters, and this is our developer, and these are all the things we're doing.
That's awesome.
I'm like, yeah.
We are doing.
So
That would be helpful.
you have to learn, I guess, what they need, what information they need, so they have enough to where they trust you.
Yeah.
So.
So my friend recommended me a book called Ask for It.
Ask for it.
Yeah, I think
Money.
yeah. Well, it's not just money; it's like everything. I haven't read through it. I only read the first chapter, but she told me before you like negotiate a salary, read that book, and then going to negotiate, and then that's we're gonna do it. So I'm gonna read it. Maybe I'll apply and talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. What she said, the silence is a good thing. If they
Yeah.
ask you, what's your number, you know, you say, well, you know, what is the range for this job? And if they give you a number, you know, and you're silent, then they might come back and be like, well, you know, would 5,000 more be good?
Yeah.
And if they won't negotiate on salary, sometimes you can negotiate on vacation and say, well, you know, if you're really capped at the salary, you know, what about vacation time? And I was even like thinking, oh, 5,000 sounds like so much more. But then someone said, well, think of that over 12 months. You know, it's not that much money per month. It's like pennies to the company.
Paycheck.
Yeah,
It's
it's
divided by 24.
It's pennies to the company.
Mhm.
You know, even 10,000 is less than 1,000 a month.
Right.
You know, less than 500 per paycheck.
That is true.
And then when you learn how much they make off you, you're like, I should be getting more.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, my hourly rate is $175?
It's just.
How much do I actually
I know we recently we used Timely to like track hours, and somebody, I don't know if they knew that they were doing this, but they recently put people's like hourly rates in it, and it'll calculate you can only see yours, but it calculates like how much you earned for the company that day, because it's your billable hours, it's not like how much you earn in salary.
Yeah.
What? You guys are making so much money off of me, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that's.
It's good information to know.
Yes, I know. Gotta work on that.
Would you like some help with this food? Sure, yeah. If you want to close it up, I need to take the utensils back to the kitchen. Anyone wants to help me take stuff up to the kitchen? The food can sit here, I'll be taking it home. Thanks for bringing wine. Sure. Yeah. Usually we have a food sponsor, but I think because it's been the holidays, nobody wanted to sponsor us.
Oh.
They're all maxed out of their budgets or starting their new year budget. But we have some donors who give some revenue codes, so yeah, that.
Do you really the wine next to you?
Yeah, I'll take that. Unless anyone else wants wine, I have the corks down below.
need to put this in the kitchen. Is there anything else that needs to go back?
I usually thank them and
Yeah.
Sure you don't want red wine?
I'll take it.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for hosting this. This was really
Sure.
cool and awesome.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite. We used to have a lot more speakers. I don't know if it's just some of our first members now all have jobs and so they're busy, learning.
It's kind of a weird day too, because like I think a lot of people have holiday. I didn't have a
Well,
holiday.
today is, yeah, weird, but we actually had our normal